So you don't have to be the guardian. But I was my soapbox is though that it does make sense to me that at age 18 that really all adults need a power of attorney, whether they have impacted disability or not. Because at age 18 we are all legally adults. In any event, I became their durable power of attorney because had they been in a car wreck and they were unconscious, the hospital doesn't have to talk to me because they are adults. So a durable power of attorney to me is a much better alternative than guardianship. Much, much, much better alternative. I know of attorneys here in Kentucky that would be willing to work with families to create a very customized, individualized power of attorney that could have specific powers related perhaps to IEP meetings or things specific to that whole arena. So that's always my strong recommendation rather than guardianship.
Well, and the supported decision-making website actually also has some templates that are really helpful for that too, because
great.
So we've done financial, medical, and then we have basically it's a supported decision-making kind of agreement that says that Andy agreed to have us attend his IEP meetings and we can continue to, provide input. So that's really the direction we wanted to go with it. And as far as applying for that account, one thing we did realize going in there is once he turned 18, he needed to have a state issued ID, where he didn't need that prior to turning 18.
That makes sense. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense, Stephanie. Which is also really, that my friend Linda has one of those, and it is helpful. And I'm a strong proponent of supported decision making as well, Stephanie. It really is more empowering for people. And also, at least in terms here in Kentucky, the reporting to the court is, from my perspective, really rather onerous. I really, really have found, for my friend Linda, at least here in Kentucky, I can do everything I did for her before without being her guardian, and it's much better. You have to provide information about your mortgage, about your utilities, and about food costs in a household. And that's really how then Social Security is going to determine what would be that person's fair share of the expenses. So I've come on the Social Security website page to talk about living arrangements. And okay, so it is another factor used to determine how much SSI or you would receive. And so it depends on where you live. So if you're living in your own place, someone else's household, in a group home and care facility, or an institution such as a hospital or nursing home. And then it goes on to explain, we may reduce your SSI benefits. So if those expenses, and I'm just going to go wild here, if they were $5,000 a month, then Andy's share would be $1,000. Well, 1,000 is more than $750, right?
Right.
So in effect, you would be subsidizing it. You would, because he couldn't pay his fair share. So it essentially that's what it means. You're paying whatever your percentage is based on the household expenses and the number of people in the living arrangement. And if you don't or you can't pay your fair share, then there's a 1/3 reduction.
Okay.
So this would be helpful again to me to read. If there is the 1/3 reduction, then instead of the full $750, which is the most it can be in 2018, it would be $500. So see, Mary Johnson moved in with her son and her grandchildren, received both food and shelter. She did not help pay for the household expenses. Because she received food and shelter from her son, we would reduce her monthly benefits, SSI benefits, by 1/3. So that's just how they do it. It's just a 1/3 reduction.
Okay.
So that's why when you do apply, you do want to say you're going to charge your young adult or whomever their fair share. And so that's my understanding of how it works. Now,
and I've heard it's important to charge them whatever you would charge someone who wasn't your family member. That.
Well, but it has to be based on numbers. It's still based on your household expenses. You don't just pull a number out of the air, right? I mean, that's my understanding.
Although I have heard of people, and this is from information for other parents, where say your house is paid off. So they would look at, comparable home in the neighborhood, and then charge that amount. So, so that's kind of how you can determine it that way.
Well, that's good to know because I didn't know that. So that is great to know. So let me just come down to here. The 1/3 reduction does not apply if you live in your own home or apartment and you pay for your own food and shelter expenses. So if for some reason, Andy's had been reduced by 1/3 for whatever reason, were he to move out, and then let's say he's living in an apartment or a home with a couple of other guys, and they're all, again, splitting the expenses, then he would get the full federal benefit.